Sorry for the boring scenery. I'm in my apartment, but I just want to tell this story. This video is just going to be about health in China. So I've been here now, I think I'm at like 70 days. I've lost count, and I don't even know why I'm keeping count. But I haven't been this sick so consistently my whole life. I think it was my week 3 here. It was the day I went to Hong Kong for one day, and it was raining. And after that day, I had such a bad cold, so bad. I mean, it was just like fever, shivering, sneezing, coughing. After the cold kind of let up after 3 days, then it turned into bronchitis, and I had some serious buildup in my lungs, and it was just horrible. I couldn't even, if I exhaled, it was just, I don't mean to gross you out, but it was just gurgly. It was just like strobe lungs. So I got over that went away. And I'm not even kidding you, 2 weeks later, I got the exact same cold again. Exact same. The fever, the body aches, but this time it was even like worse feeling. Okay, back-to-back colds, back-to-back cases of bronchitis, okay? And then on top of that, that's not even counting so many cases of food poisoning. Minimum, maybe 10 cases already in 70 days. I've had so many times. I mean, I understand you first get here. I'm just not used to their food standard and the street food, and you have to eat it. Like, you gotta go to the street vendors. Let me open up my window, it's hot in here. You eat at the street vendors because it's cheap, it's close, they're everywhere, and it's a coin flip. Every single time you eat at the vendors here, it's literally like, heads, I'm gonna shit myself. Tails, it's gonna be fine. Ding! And you're like, ah, damn it, I got heads. And it just kind of comes with the territory. And, you know, I've heard that you get used to it. People say you get used to it, you know. I haven't. I mean, I got to go 2 hours outside of Shenzhen. I went to this beautiful place called Shanwei, as you can see in my other videos. And I remember on the bus ride home, I had to tell the bus driver to pull over. It just hit me out of nowhere. And I was feeling good, and I had like awesome dinner out in the streets. And then the next day, I was feeling good in the day, and I didn't even eat breakfast or anything. I drank some water, and then I was just like, as I was on the bus, I was like, I'm about to vomit for no reason. Bus pulls over, I ran out to some alleyway, and I feel bad because there was like this older couple like cleaning some, I don't know what they were cleaning, and I just went right next to him and just, bruh. And then I got back on the bus and had to just keep my eyes closed. I've had so many cases of food poisoning. And if not nausea or vomiting, insane stomach cramps or constipation. It's crazy. It's a lot to get used to. But there really is a cost to all this fun and new. It's getting used to their lifestyle. And the pollution really is as real as they say. You know, you see videos and pictures and you're like, wow, that's a lot of pollution. Then you get here, you actually get here and you're in it and you're like, wow, that's a lot of pollution. And you can feel it. So there's some days where it's so bad, like I can feel it like burn my nose. And there's a strange phenomenon I've noticed. I've talked to other foreigners here. I have to sleep more here. You know, back home, my normal sleep, maybe 5 to 7 hours, and I'm up feeling good. Here, it's like, I gotta get 9 hours in. Like, seriously, sometimes I have to work and it's like midnight and then it's 1. I'm like, okay, I gotta go to sleep. Okay, 6 hours, I'll be fine. And normally I am. That's like my normal life back home. You know, you stay up till 1, wake up at like 8. You know, yeah, I got a good 6, 7. But here, if I do that, I feel like death. I'm like, ugh. And so on my days off, I literally just sleep. I just sleep, and then it takes me forever to get up. So basically, the point of this is I'm just having a lot of trouble finding my energy. It seems to be disappearing rapidly. So I think it's just a combination of the pollution and getting used to the food and those colds, and I don't know. And it gets kind of sad. Like I'm like new here. I'm like wanting to explore, and I have friends that are like, hey, come on out. And I'm just like, hey, not today, man. I landed on heads, and they're like, oh, you landed on heads? Shit, man. I landed on tails, so I'm gonna go out. I'm like, okay. And, I've got a story. So not only have I had this energy crisis and back-to-back sicknesses, but I actually went to the emergency room here in China. And what an experience that was. I'll give you the backstory. So it was right after the second cold. I was starting to feel better, still had some like bronchitis or whatever. And it was about midnight and I was exhausted. I was like, okay, I gotta go to sleep. Turn off the computer, and I laid down. And I fell asleep. And then at 2 a.m., I woke up and it just felt like someone put a sword in my chest. It was so painful. It woke me up. And I like woke up, I was like, oh, what's up with my chest? I was like, kind of in the right side. And I was like, what is happening? And it was going straight through my chest to my back. And I was like, okay, that's bad. And I was like, maybe we were sleeping in a funky position. I was like, okay, just chill. So I stood up, and I was also just really cold. It's really cold here right now. And I was like, okay, just take a hot shower. You know, you're freezing. It'll relax your muscles. And so I take a hot shower. The pain does not let up. And I was like, okay, this is horrible. It's like, dude, just go back to sleep. So I get back on my bed. I just couldn't fall back to sleep. After I was rolling there for about a half hour, the pain was just consistent. I couldn't nothing, no moving was fixing it. So then I started to freak out. I'm like, okay, maybe it's my lungs because I've been coughing so much. And then I was just like, it doesn't feel like lung, even though I wouldn't know if it feels like lungs or not. But then I started hyping myself out. I started thinking about I don't know, my brain. I've always had kind of a high anxiety, but my brain really just took it to the next level. I was like, I'm alone. I'm in China. I was like, what if, I don't even know the number. What if it was like an emergency? I was like, what if I'm having like a heart attack? I didn't really think it was, but I was like, I don't even know the number for 911. I don't know where a hospital is. I can't talk to anyone. And my brain just started just building up this story of like, what if you did have a medical emergency in China? What are you going to do? How are you going to handle it? So then suddenly now I'm like, okay, I went from cold to kind of sweating. I was like, okay, Vin, you're hyping yourself up. Just chill. It's just a weird ass cramp. And it was just relentless. And I was like, okay, you know what? Sat there for another 30 minutes. I was like, okay, I gotta go. I gotta see what this is. I don't know what this is. It's painful. It's new. I'm in China. I gotta see. So I put on some basic clothes and I just walked out the door of my apartment. And I see one lonely taxi just driving by, and I waved him down, and I opened up a translator and I just typed in must have freaked him out. All I typed in was emergency hospital. So I just get in all calm, and he's like, looks at me, and I just show him my phone, and then he's like, huh? And I was like, duh, heads. So he just takes off and just driving crazy, but he wasn't driving especially crazy. They just always drive crazy here. I started to have a mental game because now I'm on the way to the hospital. And now I'm like, I've involved somebody else. So then my brain doubles the pain. Now suddenly I'm like, oh yeah, it's really hurting. Really gotta get to that hospital. And just full-blown anxiety. And then I messaged my dad too. I was just like, Dad, having some crazy chest pain. And he gave me a call, and that kind of calmed me down. I was like, okay, Vince, chill, dude. You're not alone in China. It's just gonna be you're gonna go to the doctor, and they're gonna say you got some chili oil eggplant stuck in the wrong place or some shit. So I get there. So I pull up, huge hospital, and not even far from my place. That was kind of nice. I was like, oh, good to know. It's not even far. But I'm hurting so bad. I walk in. I look. It's a huge building, but all the lights are off. So it was almost kind of spooky. The buildings here, they're not the cleanest. A lot of the buildings in Shenzhen are very futuristic, but this was like an older style, kind of mildewy looking hospital, but it was huge, and all the lights were off. And then the taxi driver just books. And I was like, okay, all right. And I look around, I kind of walk, and then I see one room with lights on. I was like, okay. So I go in there, and I just see there's just one girl at the front desk. Literally, this is what she's doing. So I just walk up, and I tapped her. I was like, hello, and she wakes up, and she looks like, whoa, foreigner. And I had on my translator on my phone, I typed in extremely bad chest pain. Showed her, and she looked, and she just. I swear to God, she just looks at it and she just goes, and then she hands me this little piece of paper, this little tiny piece of paper. Clearly it was just printed from a regular printer, and then she took scissors and cut them into 4 and made a stack. Just hands me this off-cut of paper. I'm imagining it's probably a guest information sheet, but it's all Chinese characters. And I was like, okay. So I wrote my name on the first one, and then I just wrote my phone number, and then she saw what I was writing as I'm in pain, and then I guess I wrote the wrong thing in the wrong category because she just grabs it and crumbles it, and then she hands me a calculator and punches in 45 on it, and I'm like, 45, what? What's going on here? And she's just like, 45 kwai. When she said it, she didn't say 45. She said it in Chinese. 45 kwai. And I was like, I gotta pay that? I don't even know what's happening. Okay, so I pull out my phone, I scan, you pay everything with your phone and in WeChat, so I just, bloop, 45. Okay, and then she gets up and she walks away. I'm like, all right, something's gonna happen. And the pain is still just super consistent, but I'm trying to be cool, trying to make sure they all love me, because they're looking at okay, you're a liability, you're a foreigner, what's going on? It's 2 a.m., we're not used to this. At least that's the vibe I'm getting. So I'm like, okay, just be chill. Doctor comes out, young, super young guy. His outfit that he was wearing, just way bigger than him. He was just And he comes up and he speaks English, but it's very, very broken and garbled, but it was enough. And he's like, what is wrong? I'm not going to do his voice, but it was bad, but I understood. And then I was like, I'm having insane chest pain, insane, like, da-da-da. Okay, come here. I'm like, all right. So I'm walking now with him down these halls, and I'm looking at the hospital. Everything's just dirty. I like look on the roof. I see like there's just water leaking down. It was just crazy. It was nice. There was still like good quality equipment. I'm looking, I see like IVs and machines. I'm like, okay, this is like all standard hospital equipment. The standard in the US though, everything is very sterile. Maybe I'm just spoiled and been to some baller hospitals, but I'm just used to like hyper clean, you know, all the walls are, anyway. So I'm walking with this doctor, and he sits down at a computer and I sit down with him, and I'm still just seriously pain. And in my head, I'm making it worse now. I'm like, so I start like sweating, and he's like, all right, so we need to take your blood. That's gonna cost 200 RMB. And I was just like, oh, and I'm making, the voice I'm doing makes it sound like he's a perfectly no, it was more like, when then to get the blood, whatever that, Italian, some blood. I don't know, anyway, it was bad, but but I respect him. 200 RMB for blood work. And I was like, okay. And he's like, that will tell us if it's a heart problem. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And he's like, okay. So go pay the 200. And I was like, oh, not after? No, go pay. I was like, okay, I pull out my phone for WeChat, and he goes, no, back out at the front. I was like, okay, just go. And he's like, mm-hmm. I was like, oh, okay. So, and now also I'm lucky because it's 2 a.m. There's no one in the hospital. Clearly the front desk lady was asleep. So I'm like, okay, I'm just in serious chest pain. I'm like, all right, I gotta just go pay. So I walk all the way back down the hall. I go to the sleeping lady, and I use my translator, and I said, I have to pay for blood work. And then she pulls out a calculator, types in 220 RMB, and I was like, okay, dude, there goes the money. And then she's like, okay. I was like, do I just go back to him now? But you know, I didn't say that, and she wouldn't understand. I was like, I'm just being stupid. I'm like, do I go, doctor? And she's looking at me like, I was like, Google Translate. Do I have to go back to the doctor? And she goes, yes. So I go back to the doctor. I was like, okay, I paid. And he's like, okay, come with me. Then I go into this room, and it looks like an actual patient room. It's like an actual, there's like, you know, you can pull the curtains, there's beds. He's like, lay down, take off your shirt. I was like, okay. So I go in, I take off my shirt, I lay down on a bed, and he leaves. Still just in severe pain. I'm just like, okay. I was just tripping on the whole experience. I was like, wow, that's wild. You just pay as you go, I guess. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, I'm still sweating. And then three of these super young looking Asian nurses come in, and they just got like turbo masks on, super masks, and they're just like, no words said. They put the IV in my hand. It was, you know, normal IV. And then they take blood, and then they hook me up to the thing with all the leads in the heart to check if I'm having a heart attack. But it was awkward because they took off my shirt. I'm Italian. I'm hairy. Like, I just got a hairy chest. I got just hair everywhere. When they like see, and they kept trying to put the leads on my chest and they wouldn't stick. So she looks at me and she's like, says all this Chinese words, and I don't know. And then she pulls out a razor and shows me the razor. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So she shaves all these patches into my chest, just making a nice artwork there. I was like, okay, that's awkward. I'm gonna need to deal with that mess later. So she sticks it on, and I hear the girls are like, one of them starts giggling, like, I'm like, oh. Well, I'm glad I can make your 3 a.m. interesting, ladies. This is what a real man's bod looks like, right? So they put the leads on, and then one of the girls like, okay. And I was like, okay. And so they leave. And this is when it gets real weird. So I'm waiting. And I'm waiting. And I'm waiting. The pain's still there. They're doing the blood test. I guess they're looking at the EK. It was called an ECG or EKG. I don't know. I have my eyes closed. I'm just trying to get off the pain. And I didn't know this, but she put like a muscle relaxer in there or something, because not in the IV, but they gave me a shot. It was like blood vial, a shot of something. And then they left. Because then suddenly I'm like, okay, I'm starting to feel pretty good. I started to just feel like I'm on that good Chinese shit. I really started to feel like the pain was still there, but I didn't care about it. I was just like, okay. So I closed my eyes. I was like, maybe I could just fall asleep. You know, maybe that'd be cool if I just fell asleep. And then I wake up and I look, and I'm laying down and I open my eyes like, oh, something startled me. And I look up and all I see, I swear, maybe 22 people completely around my bed. Like, and it freaked me out. I was like, I opened my eyes like, oh, and it was all women, all women, and then right in front of me at my feet, one old man doctor, just the master chief. And I was like, okay, they're gonna tell me I'm having a stroke or a heart attack, because why? And they're all like looking and smiling, like, and I was just like, I was freaked out. I was like, okay. And then the doctor just comes over here. I had put my shirt back on at this point, and he just walks over, no word said, grabs my shirt, yanks it up in front of all the girls. I see like the faces on the other girls because I had all these hair patches. This is not me at my best, ladies. It's not me at my best, but it's not me at my worst either. None of that happened. That was just in my head. And then I was just kind of embarrassed. So I was like, okay, dude, just shut your eyes. It's like, if you can't see them, they can't see you. So I'm just in this gurney. Here, I'm recreating it. I'm just like, there's just people. I couldn't even see the walls because there was a party. I was like, what is happening to me? What's going on? And the doctor just starts pushing on my stomach real hard at all these different spots. And he pushes on one spot. And when he pushed it, I swear I teared up. It was so painful. I was just like, and then he backs up. And then the most clear English I've heard yet, he just goes, I think it's his gallbladder. And he looks at the lady's gallbladder, and all the ladies just start taking notes, and he's like, okay, and then they all just walk out. I was like, okay, cool, I'm glad I could be in the experience for the Shenzhen hospital training session, or whatever that was. And so doctor comes back in, the young doctor comes in. We think it might be your gallbladder, but we're not sure. The blood test things look good, doesn't seem like it might be your heart, but we need to do a chest x-ray. And I was like, okay. And he's like, chest x-ray is gonna be 200 RMB. I was like, okay, just put it on the bill. And he's like, okay, well, you gotta pay. And I was like, back at the place? And he's like, yeah, but let me, and then he calls someone over. And so this guy that comes over, maybe 45, very clean, perfect haircut, like baller watch, not even in a doctor's outfit, just some dude dressed super nice, comes over kind of mad and just grabs my bed that I'm on and just starts rolling me out. I'm like, okay, all right. And this is where it gets embarrassing. So now it's like, I didn't even look at the time, but so much time had passed. It's like 4:35 now. What was an empty hospital is now a circus of people, just so many people. So I'm getting rolled out and I'm just like, all these locals just looking at me, and I'm like, okay, just close your eyes. If you can't see them, they can't see you. And this was so embarrassing. They roll me out into the main lobby on the bed with my IV, like the IV was like hooked up. I just looked bad, and my chest hair and shit. They just roll me right to the main front desk, and they're like 200 RMB, and I was like, okay. So I shit you not, I'm laying on the bed right here, right? All these people and local families are looking at me, and I'm like, okay. And I just pull out my phone, and I was like, 200 RMB. I reach over and scan the thing. Boop. And then the guy's like, okay. And then they roll me back out. I was just like, really? Like, they got to get a better pay system going on. Maybe bill me at the end. But I think like they just want to make sure like, do you have the money? So literally it was just like a pay as you go. And I'm so stoked I had the money. I kept thinking, I was like, dude, what if you didn't have this money on you? Holy shit. And then finally it's time for the chest x-ray. And I'm still in pain, by the way. Like pain, like I'm more relaxed and I've kind of gotten over it. I'm like, okay, if it was a heart attack, I'd probably be dead by now. So it's not that. So I was more relaxed about it, but it sucked. Same guy comes back in, the fancy guy, and he rolls me into this elevator, which was the elevator was the exact size, rectangular shape of the bed, the gurney or whatever you want to call it that I was on. Rolls it in. Just all these people, like families, just back up. And they're just looking at me because I'm at their crotch level on the bed. And I'm just looking up like in the elevator, get banged against the wall. And I look to my left and just all these families looking at me like, what's this foreigner doing in this hospital? And I was like, okay, just close your eyes. If you can't see them, they can't see you. And then the elevator, just weird. Then I get rolled out. I just keep my eyes closed. And I can just hear hundreds of people. Just that, you know, that background cafeteria sound. That DMV sound or whatever. Not a DMV sound, but, you know, just sound of people being around. I was like, okay, just eyes closed. Boom. So then I get the chest x-ray. And this, I swear this girl must have been 9 years old. She comes over and she's like, okay, stand here, put your hands up. And I was like, okay. And then she takes the picture and she like was staring at the patches in my chest hair, like, I'm like, yeah, I don't do that. That's not my normal chest hair style. I go back, then the same guy comes back in. The chest x-ray was very fast. He just waited outside the door and rolls me back into the elevator. New people, close my eyes. They can't see me. I can't see whatever. And I'm back in the initial room. Finally, after such another long wait, now it's like 6, 7 a.m. The doctor comes in. Legendary doctor, like the OG doctor, comes in. He goes, it's not your heart. Everything looks good about your heart. We did see a little bit of lung inflammation. I was like, yeah, I had just had bronchitis. He's like, yeah, a little bit of that. You have fatty liver. I've never heard of that before. And he was like, it's not bad. It's reversible, but you need to not be fat is basically what he told me. He's like, your gallbladder's not infected, but it's swollen. The pain will go away on its own in a day or two. I'm gonna give you some muscle relaxers. And then he told me the basic stuff of like, gallbladder's infected. If this keeps happening, then you'll probably need to get it taken out. But right now, from the level of swollen, or I don't really remember, but basically he just said like, you're fine. Just shit's hurting right now. He's like, you got a fat liver, gallbladder's all fucked up from all that street food, right? And then he looked me in the eyes and he was like, have you been getting heads a lot whenever you flip the coin? And I was like, yeah, every time I flip the coin. He's like, you gotta try to get tails. He didn't say that. Anyway, so now I know I'm not dying, but the pain sucked, but he gives me these muscle relaxers. You're good to go. I was like, okay, I'm still the IV in me. He's like, yeah, yeah, let me, just no sanitary. Oh, yeah, and he just grabs some shit, just pulls it out right there, no gloves, nothing, just, okay, puts a Band-Aid on it. Okay, bye. I was like, okay, bye. And then I just walked out of the hospital. Oh, and then right before I walk out, this guy runs up, and a different person I've never seen was like, hey, and I was like, oh, and he hands me this awesome folder here, or bag, and just, hey, take this. And I was like, what? And then I open it up, and look at this epic present I've got. Moral of the story here is, I've got myself beautiful China X-ray. Look at that. That's the most you're ever gonna see of me, guys. You see my fatty liver. Anyway, I just wanted to share that story. It's long. The pain, I don't have the pain anymore. It's gone. This whole video is just about, I don't know. China's kicking my ass physically. And when you're hurt physically and you're always sick and you're kind of like alone out here, it affects you mentally. There's still so much I want to see, but I need to start feeling better ASAP. Anyway, I gotta get my energy back up. So, moral of the story is, pay as you go, emergency rooms. Pay as you go.